Go Moorhead.
Welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. I'm Meteorologist Justin Storm with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki and Ag Director Bridgette Readel. 5 below zero right now, and wind chill around 19 below. A little warmer than yesterday, though. Guys, how are you doing? Bridgette, you staying warm? You're up there in Devil's Lake out on the ice, isn't that correct?
I am, and it is it's a dry cold. I guess we could use that phrase that everybody does when they go down south. But it's a great day here at Woodland Resort. We are preparing for agronomy on ice that'll take place tomorrow. A lot of the sponsors' houses are moving in, and there's not a lot of wind, so that really does help. I currently am inside a fish house because I thought it was a lot easier than hanging around outdoors today.
And Bridgette, for those that don't know what agronomy on ice is, explain exactly what it is.
Well, it's not the ice capades, I'll tell you that much. I'm not wearing a Disney princess costume. So this is, instead of doing a farm show indoors, like maybe we do at Big Iron, right, where we walk around outside, this is actually going to be outside, but on the ice. It's on Devil's Lake at Woodland Resort. And instead of going from booth to booth, you would go from ice house to ice house and visit with vendors and other farmers who are here fishing. We've got folks on the way from Michigan, Ontario, Arkansas, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Kansas, North Nebraska, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa. There's a lot of folks that are going to be here just walking around visiting, and we're going to learn a lot from them because all those conversations that you have are very important as to what you do on your farm or in your business and how that can help someone else.
How many in attendance would you say?
Not sure yet. Last year with an ice storm, we still were able to get close to 600. We think we're certainly going to surpass that by quite a lot tomorrow. We'll see what it looks like. But I like that our guys in the studio have figured out how to get Woodland Resort's live cam up. So from time to time throughout our broadcast today, you will see what's going on here from Woodland Resort. All those houses out there, they are part of agronomy on ice.
That's awesome, man. I'm jealous.
Looks like a fun time. Maybe we'll have to swing up there tomorrow.
Yeah. We'd love to.
Do you
and
want
if
to
you
road
are
trip
coming,
Sure.
But please park on shore. And actually, because we do have a lot of folks out here and water will come up through the holes, so we don't want to drill any holes. We don't want anybody actually fishing out of their houses right now because it would flood out the area. So just a couple reminders, because we've had so much snow, there's a lot of weight on it. And it's interesting that even when the area flooded, it didn't freeze right away. So, okay, weather guys, how come it didn't all freeze right away? You're going to answer that for me sometime during this hour today?
Are you talking when the holes were drilled, just the last day or so?
Yep, and then water came up through the holes because of the pressure.
Mm-hmm. And it didn't freeze right away?
Right, it's slushy, but it hasn't really frozen.
That top layer is pretty insulated from the snow. That's my guess.
Okay. Just curious what's going on
there. More than likely what it is. I know that when we flood our, my parents, they have a pond at the end of their road, and we would always drill hole, or we'd make a hockey rink, and then we would drill it, and then we would flood it so that way it was nice and clean or crisp. Sheet of ice after every use, and the layer of ice would always freeze, but any water that ran underneath the snow, it would never freeze. It would just almost turn like a yellow tinted slush, and it would just never freeze.
The yellow tint.
So I bet you it's the snow.
Yeah, it's got to be because it's insulated.
Yeah, well, quite a lot of that.
Well, we got fun things coming up on the show today, guys. And we're going to have a guest on today out of Missouri. He's a popcorn farmer. That's Will Bier. Is that correct? Will Bier, Bridgette? All right. Well, he's going to be joining us. It'll be interesting.
If your last name is Bier, shouldn't it go with popcorn?
And pretzels.
Right.
And we got a few ag topics we're going to get to, or at least try to get to today. And there's some new rules when it comes to organic food. And this one, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to butcher this one like the, what was that, glufosinate. I think I butchered that one a few weeks ago. But dicamba recertification seminars are going on. So we'll touch on that a little bit. And also, kind of an interesting one, farming and technology going hand in hand. How about farming under solar panels? That'll be a fun conversation we'll try to get to as well. So all of that and so much more, including a look on the forecast. Here's a little tease. There's warmer weather on the way. Stay tuned. Weather and Ag in Focus. We'll be right back.
Are you, a family member, your neighbor, or friend saving for something special or have unexpected expenses? Labor Masters is here to help. Hi, Nancy Kelly here. The process is simple. Bring your picture ID, a social security card or birth certificate. It takes 10 minutes to fill out the application, and we'll put you to work. So come in, go to work, and get paid the same day. To learn more, go to labormasters.net. The best companies, great jobs, and daily pay.
From ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. The firings continued in Memphis in the wake of the caught-on-video police beating of Tyree Nichols, who died after the beating. A fire lieutenant and 2 emergency medical technicians were fired on Monday. 2 additional Memphis officers and 2 deputy sheriffs have been relieved of duty. Nichols' death has President Biden repeating his call for Congress to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
I think we should do it right now. We should have done it before.
It died in the Senate in 2020 and 2021, and prospects for passage now are not good.
President Biden has said in the past he's all on board for police reform, but doing that, pulling it off, gets a lot more complex in this era of divided government now in Congress, with Republicans in control of the House, Democrats in control of the Senate. There would have to be some kind of bipartisan agreement on a police reform bill for it to pass in both of those chambers.
ABC's Jay O'Brien. The president was in Baltimore touting infrastructure improvements at a crumbling rail tunnel built when Ulysses S. Grant was president.
The decrepit Baltimore and Potomac Tunnel, crucial to both passenger and freight rail transport on the East Coast, is now being rebuilt. With up to $4.7 billion from the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure law, this project alone projected to create an estimated 20,000 new construction jobs. It's just one of over 7,000 projects launching in the coming months with funds from this massive bill.
ABC's Terry Moran. The last president now suing Bob Woodward for $50 million, claiming the journalist never had permission to publicly release recordings of interviews for his book, Rage. Woodward's statement says the interviews were recorded with Trump's knowledge and agreement. With the pandemic about to enter its 4th year, the White House informed Congress on Monday that the twin national emergencies will be ended on May 11th. You're listening to ABC News.
Never completely ready to adopt a teen.
For late nights writing English papers.
For your teen's music taste.
For dinners, where they talk more on their phone than with you.
For the first time, they call you Mom.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen, and you can't imagine the reward.
To learn more about adopting a teen, visit adoptuskids.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Remember the last time your family visited the forest?
While you're out riding snowmobiles, your friends at Dakota Valley Electric would like to remind snowmobilers to be extra cautious and watch out for electrical equipment that can be hidden by the snow. Power poles, guy wires, and transformer boxes and cabinets may be buried. Slow down. See a downed line? Stay away and report it. Stay safe and enjoy. Supporting snowmobile safety on the air because they care. Dakota Valley Electric Cooperative, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
Joining us 111 this afternoon, I'm meteorologist Justin Storm with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki and Ag Director Bridgette Readel. Looking at fair skies outside, 5 below right now, a wind chill of 19 below zero. Not quite as bad as yesterday, though. We were dealing with wind chills closer to 40 below. And Dean, we got warmer weather on the way. It's just going to take a few days to get here. A gradual warm up into tomorrow, a quick cool down on Thursday, but by the weekend, although a little breezy, not looking too bad temperature-wise. Why don't we take a look at that forecast for the region?
Yeah, finally we're looking at some warmer temperatures, at least by the weekend. Today, actually, we just bumped up to 2 below, so we're almost above zero. I think we'll get there before the day is done. Should reach a high in the single digits, just above zero. We'll see the clouds increase as we head towards evening. With a wind out of generally the west-southwest direction, about 5 to 10, so not overly strong, turning more towards the southwest. And then southerly winds overnight tonight, down to about 8 below. A few flurries possible, but really not much in the way of accumulation expected. And Wednesday, a little bit warmer in the upper single digits. If we're lucky, we'll hit about 10. And then a reinforcing shot of Arctic air arrives Wednesday night. Winds turn sharply out of the north-northwest. and they'll be gusting at 30 or possibly a little higher than that as we head into Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Then Arctic air comes back in for Thursday and Friday. Winds turn to the south on Friday on the breezy side, warming us up into the single digits above zero, and then the weekend promises some 20s. Yeah, finally, 20s back in the forecast. And as you said, Justin, a little breezy, especially on Saturday. And still no signs of any big storms. The LRC calendar had something pegged. I believe it was the 6th through the 8th of this month, which will be next week. That looks to be heading south of us, at least at this standpoint. But I still think somewhere around the 13th through the 22nd. That's one of the stormier parts of our LRC cycle. And it looks like we'll start to see more storms enter the central part of the U.S. Again, whether they'll stay south of us or not, that's going to be the million-dollar question, and we'll fine-tune that. But definitely keep those dates on your radar. Also, I promised yesterday, Bridgette, and I had a few emails. They said, hey, you were supposed to touch on that new run of the LRC and talk about when the last possible frost will be. And we totally spaced that off. So let's get that now before my old brain forgets it by the end of the show. That could easily happen again. So the latest run of the LRC puts us a little later now. And I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but a little later for our last freeze or frost looks to be mid, possibly late April. So that might put a little delay in the planting season there. So we'll keep a close eye on that, but that's kind of what it looks like. We were hoping for early April, but it looks like that might get pushed back a couple of weeks. We'll wait and see.
Well, and that can maybe change what we're doing for planting intentions. So if we're going to have that later frost, then we know that we want to make sure that something that could sustain a frost would be in the ground first, which would be corn. That's pretty normal. Mm-hmm. Same with wheat. Maybe we want to hold off on those soybeans going in because they're a lot more delicate when it comes to a frost and cold weather in early stages anyway.
Right. And March 7th, and we'll have more updates on that on our spring and summer outlook coming up March 7th. The Jay Thomas Show starting at 2 p.m. So that'll be a great show. Looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Bridgette,
I think that's going to be an excellent day.
How do beets do when they start emerging, and how do they handle cold and frost potential?
You know, sugar beets can be okay. They're not the worst. They're not the best. Let's put them kind of in the middle ground. And when I think about sugar beets, I get a lot of concern about wind because they have those two little leaves on the top that almost act like a propeller that can twist them right out of the ground. And beets overall aren't too bad. You try to get them established and then they're a fairly decent plant. And they are suited for our colder growing conditions up here. So, I mean, our sugar beet growers, they're very well trained on when are the right planting dates, what's the right temperature, optimum for them, that type of thing.
I see. I've always heard that from a few friends of mine that do sugar beets, and they always say that the first 2 weeks they just want to die, and then you can't kill them after that.
Yeah, yep, they do. That early on. So knowing when you need to plant, knowing when what your temperatures are doing certainly matters. But yeah, they're fairly hardy after you get them in the ground and started.
Well, we're going to hit another break up here soon, guys, but we're going to get our guest on the line. So if you want to join in on our conversation, ask any questions during the show, feel free to do so. Give us a call. We love to hear from our listeners, 701-293-9000, or you can always reach us via email during or after our shows at weather@flagfamily.com or egg@flagfamily.com. We're going to get our guest, Will Bier, on with us. He's out of Missouri. He's a popcorn farmer and also a Steiger tractor aficionado. So we're going to tackle those topics and a few other ones with our questions when we come back.
Talking with Jeannie at Kinder Care in West Fargo. Her mom is here. Tell us about the care your mom's received.
Peace of mind. Just knowing that she's always happy, she's taken care of, she's getting what she needs, she's very comfortable here. If there is anything or she wants to talk to us, they call us, they FaceTime us. It's very comforting to know that she is here. Not even a question. Come and visit Kinder Care. You will be happy.
Melanie would love to give you a tour. Text 701-261-3246 online at kindercarefargo.com.
My dad has a cold, but also has high blood pressure. That's why I got him Vicks NyQuil High Blood Pressure for fast, powerful nighttime relief. Unlike some ordinary cold medicines, it's specially formulated for people like my dad. NyQuil High Blood Pressure is sugar-free, alcohol-free, and decongestant-free.
Vicks NyQuil High Blood Pressure. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, fever, sore throat, cold, and flu for people with high blood pressure.
Like my dad.
Medicine. Use as directed.
Ew, the toilet sneeze. Every flush spews bacteria onto surfaces that little Bobby touches and then spreads to the light switch and everywhere else in the house. Yuck. So Dad uses Microban 24 to help stop the spread. It's the only sanitizing spray with a long-lasting shield that keeps killing 99.9% of bacteria on surfaces for up to 24 hours. Be confident you're protecting your family with Microban 24. Don't just sanitize it, Microban it.
Looking for a rewarding career in healthcare with excellent benefits? Help enrich the lives of the men and women who served our country by joining the North Dakota Veterans Home family. Whether you're a registered nurse, certified nurse's assistant, medication technician, or have a background in administration or maintenance, visit ndvh.nd.gov to learn more about career opportunities today.
Sponsored by the North Dakota Cares Coalition in cooperation with the North Dakota Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, this is Kevin Pfeiffer with Pfeiffer's Auction Company. Pfeiffer's upcoming January 2023 auctions include 160 acres of good cropland in Burke County, 339 acres of cropland north of Dickinson in Dunn County, 305 acres of exceptional cropland in Cass County near Erie, 320 acres of highly productive cropland near Hope, North Dakota in Steele County, and 239 acres of exceptional cropland in Foster County near Kensel. View these auctions and many more land and equipment auctions at Pfeiffer's.com.
The famous chips. The potato chip, the chocolate chip, the computer chip, the poker chip, the paint chip, and the windshield chip. Glass Doctor of Fargo Moorhead wants to remind you that the difference in temperature outside and inside your vehicle can make a little chip grow into a real budget buster. So make your repair or replacement appointment today at Glass Doctor of Fargo Moorhead. Call or go online at glassdoctor.com/Fargo. That's glassdoctor.com/Fargo.
Call the Glass Doctor, we'll fix your paint.
And welcome to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Bridgette, Readel, Ag Director, along with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki and Justin Storm, Meteorologist Extraordinaire. And no storming over here at Devil's Lake today. Very glad to see that. Thank you, gentlemen, for good weather for once while I'm traveling. I appreciate it.
That's a first.
That's a first. So our guest today is a whole different kind of corn. Often we think about what we want to do when it comes to, silage corn in this area or field corn. But I have a friend from Twitter, and his name is Will Bier, and Will is joining us because he's raised popcorn. So, Will, how are you? And please introduce yourself.
I am doing all right today. Hi, I'm Will Bier from Hannibal, Missouri, which is a pretty good clip from you guys today, I do believe. But we grow corn, soybeans, and grew popcorn on and off for about 25 years. Well, what do you want to know about popcorn?
Well, I think we want to know a lot of things about popcorn. So do you treat popcorn any differently, like when you're planting it? Seed size is still the same. What about do you have longer maturities? Because I think there's a reason I'm not growing it here in North Dakota very often.
We generally planted a lower population than we did field corn. Seed size is about like trying to plant soybeans with a corn meter. It was very tiny but consistent. We generally would tune our corn meters up, or the metering system up, for a smaller kernel. It was like 115, 116. Moisture was critical on it. You couldn't be too dry and you couldn't be too wet. You had to be just right to get it out, or you'd crack the hull.
When you say moisture, Will, are you talking about Will, when you said that about moisture, you're talking moisture on the grain, not moisture as far as rainfall and so forth. Okay.
Right. The moisture content of the grain, yes. The actual number escapes me, but
okay.
Trying to think.
Okay.
Well, and for our listeners that don't know the difference, what's the difference in harvesting or just even raising field corn compared to popcorn variety?
You could get away. It looks the exact same in the field driving down the road. You look at it and you think that's very sad looking corn, but that makes great popcorn. You use P and K was the same. Is the same. Nitrogen you could run a little less because it is less hardy than field corn even today. All conventional corn herbicides worked on it. It had to be on label, which most of it is and was then. At the era we were growing it, the biggest problem we had was it was not an insurable crop in my county until we grew it long enough that they insured it.
So by a non-insurable crop, that meant that when you were raising it and if anything happened, you couldn't claim crop insurance on it, and that was just a complete out-of-pocket loss for you at the time, correct?
Oh, yes. Yes, a fantastic out-of-pocket loss, I might add. But, yeah, and I'm trying to think. We generally went from the combine to the truck to the processing plant. The least amount you handle it, the better. Because if you crack the hull of popcorn, you get old maids. So, yes. And that was the biggest thing you had to do. And believe it or not, the more worn out your combine was, the better. No.
Because it wasn't as tough on the kernels?
Yes. You had to pay very close attention, and they would send a test kit. What you do is you basically dipped it in iodine, and if the iodine was in the crack, you had a percentage amount per bushel that you could have, because you're going to crack it, you're going to damage it, as you move it. But that was the hard part. It was harder harvesting than it was growing it through the season. Is another thing too is they really didn't like if it got contaminated with soybean seed, because they can't clean it out.
Because they're the same size.
Yes, they didn't mind field corn or some weed seed, something like that. But soybeans, oh no, they.
And when you harvest the popcorn, do you sell it locally, nationally, and how many popcorn growers are there around your area?
At the time we were running hard, there was about 10 of us, and we were growing it all for Weaver in Indiana and Illinois, and they would pay the trucking, and that was the Boy Scout popcorn that they used to sell door to door. There's still a few guys here grow it, but they're growing it and promoting it themselves as an end user. We were using it for replacement acres for soybeans at the time, and we just ran out of market. The company we're growing for pulled back into Indiana, and it was just too far to deal with it. But we still plant a little bit just to give to folks, and because everybody's amazed by popcorn, they have no idea they think it's a bush or something. I wish I was kidding about that. Another thing that will happen on a paved county road is there's no ears on the end roads for about the first 6 in if they find out it's popcorn. I'm not saying my neighbors borrowed it, but
go ahead, Bridgette. You got something relevant to this.
Yeah. If they just borrowed it, okay. So a couple of things. Maybe it wasn't dry enough to pop yet, and were they just going to throw like the whole cob in the microwave? Any idea what the plan was when they borrowed some of your ears of corn?
I think they were going to get free popcorn. Is what they thought. But yeah, we did. We have one farm on a pretty decent county road. They'd pick them clean as soon as the coffee shop found out it had popcorn. Oh, that's popcorn. And then nope, not the first 8 rows. It's not. Which is fine. But
yeah, is popcorn a large crop that's grown? Regionally, I guess I'm not entirely sure where the bulk of popcorn is grown, and of the area that it is grown in. Is it like a large crop? A lot of people get involved with popcorn around the United States, or is it kind of like its own little niche market where not a lot of people participate in it?
Indiana, Illinois, Indiana grows a ton of it. It was giving you an opportunity to have less inputs and make pretty good money on corn. But for us, like I said, beans got better, corn varieties got better, could handle drouthy, lighter dirt better, and you could do that, and the market went away. But you got to remember, popcorn, the expansion rate on popcorn is like 40 to 1. So an 80,000 pound load of popcorn is a lot. I mean,
that's a lot of
80,000 that's 80,000 of those bags you see in your store shelf when you buy a pound of popcorn. You know, I mean, and like I said, movie theater popcorn was the majority of it. That, and it went to like, that's what who we grew for at the time. That's who they were selling to, movie theaters, and like I said, the Boy Scouts. But and that popcorn had a thicker. If you ever look at your popcorn, some of it looks like a crab, and some of it looks like regular popcorn. One is harder than the other. It was engineered bread to have a tougher hull, so you could make Cracker Jacks, kettle corn, stuff like that. It could be mechanically, mixed and blended and all that. Other than that, there's not much difference in popcorn that I recall.
So there's actually like a difference in varieties, if you will, like you said, that harder hull and so forth. That I did not know either.
There's different varieties, and I do believe there's different maturity dates on it. Still, I was actually going to try to do my homework on this before we did this, and that didn't happen. So I'm in the way back machine on this today. I apologize, but it is a riot to grow. It is absolutely fun. Because again, my load of popcorn is mind-boggling.
Okay, so we're going to ask you more of those types of questions, like some of those favorite fun things about popcorn, if it's more of a drought tolerant or if it needs a lot more rainfall, etc. And we're going to do that because it's 1:29 in the afternoon. It's the bottom of the hour. We will be right back as we continue our discussion with Will Bier. Will raises popcorn down near Hannibal, Missouri. He also happens to have a real fondness for Steiger tractors from right here in North Dakota. So we'll continue to talk with Will when we return right after this.
Hey Fargo Moorhead, let us introduce ourselves. We're Brockmere Talent Stone, and we invite you to sprint on over to our amazing new showroom. You'll be pumped to see the countertops you can score. Brockmere Talent Stone has a selection of 10 stock quartz colors to offer a streamlined process and quick turnaround time. Brockmere Talent Stone, just south of Costco on Veterans Boulevard.
And yeah, we have white quartz with gray veining.
Granite and quartz, it's what we do, baby.
At Fisher Investments, we do things differently, and other money managers don't understand why.
Because our way works great for us.
But it may not work for your clients. That's why Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, obligated to put clients first. It's the highest standard for a financial advisor.
So, what do you provide? Cookie-cutter portfolios like the rest of us?
No cookie-cutter portfolios here. Fisher Investments tailors portfolios to meet each client's goals and needs.
But you do sell investments that earn you high commissions, right? And make commissions when you make trades for your clients?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission investment products, and we never earn commissions on trades.
So what's in it for you?
Fisher Investments fees are structured so we do better when our clients do better. When it comes to helping clients achieve a comfortable retirement, we're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
MyPillow is an amazing company because of all the Minnesotans who work there and their high-quality American-made products. With that in mind, we've got an amazing offer for our listeners on standard MyPillows and just in time for those who need a great night's sleep. You receive a standard MyPillow, regular price $69.98, now only $19.98. Get the comfort and the sleep you've never gotten before with a MyPillow. You also will receive deep discounts on all MyPillow products, such as MyPillow towels, mattress topper, My Slippers, and so much more. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener square to receive Mike's standard MyPillow for just $19.98 and use promo code WDAY. MyPillow is made in the USA, comes with a 10-year warranty, so you know it's going to last, and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. It's time to start getting the quality sleep you not only want, but you need. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-875-0644 and use promo code WDAY to take advantage of Mike's special offer on his standard MyPillow. That's MyPillow.com, promo code WDAY, or call 800-875-0644.
I'm North Dakota Soybean Council Director Rob Rose of Wimbledon. The North Dakota Soybean Council reminds soybean farmers to use soy biodiesel to pump up your bottom line. Biodiesel is a high-quality, clean-burning renewable fuel produced from domestic resources like soybeans. Biodiesel blends up to 20% can be used in any diesel engine. Most importantly, biodiesel increases the value of soybeans by over $1 per bushel. For more information about biodiesel, visit biodiesel.org.
Did you know there are 6 main types of corn? There's flour corn, waxy maize, sweet corn, popcorn, dent, and flint. Corn's scientific name is Zea maize. The word maize most likely comes from a Latin American Aboriginal tribe's name for corn, which meant life giver. Due to the unusual adaptability of corn seeds, every state in the United States has land capable of growing some type of corn, despite differences in soil and climate. These farm facts brought to you by the American Ag Network.
Welcome to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Bridgette, Readel Ag Director, along with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki and Justin Storm, Meteorologist Extraordinaire. And we have on the line with us today our guest, Will Bier. And by the way, I find it ironic that your last name being Bier and you raise popcorn down there in Missouri. Those things just go hand in hand, Will. And I know enough about you to know that you also like grain belt beer, so that is also a nice shout out for our region. And before we went to break, Will, I'd asked, what's the water needs for popcorn? Is it more of a drought tolerant crop? Does it need a lot more moisture? Tell me a little bit more about that.
No, it was at the time we were doing it. Like I said, we put it on lighter soil, stuff like that. It would handle a drought better of the era. Now, I will tell you that the genetics in field corn have come a long way, you know, in the last several years, but that's what we were doing with it, drouthy soil, lighter soil, and it worked well. The other reason we do it was it let us get a whole bunch more organic matter in a bunch of ground that needed it, you know, because you could put corn on it instead of beans.
Mm-hmm. And Will, is it a profitable market for popcorn? Is it kind of a smaller market?
Where I'm at, it's smaller. It's harder to deal with than it was at, you know, if we were closer to Central Illinois, closer to Indiana, yeah, those guys have a market just like we do for beans or corn. Around here, it gets a little nichey. There's places you can sell it. There's a guy south of me that makes a pretty good living off of growing and bagging and selling his own popcorn, but he markets well too. When the opportunity gets right, we'll grow it again because it does make money. And like I said, it's fun.
So when you say it's fun, why is it fun? What's different versus corn or soybeans, traditional corn?
It's popcorn, man. Popcorn. Nobody's sad when they eat popcorn. Let you burn it, you know.
Yeah.
No, it's just the challenge of it, doing something a little different, you know. Just there's some more management issues to it on the weed control side of it that makes you think, lets you, if you got a gen ag degree, it lets you flex that a little bit, you know, and it's just fun. It's just different. I'm a big fan of the underdog, so that parlays into my operation too. I just like to do different stuff.
And what does the popcorn growing season look like? I mean, how long does it take popcorn to grow? When do you plant it? What time of the year do you harvest it?
We would plant it, you know, early mid-April for down here where I'm at. You know, that's when we start, and we would shell it there September, October. You mostly were dictated by moisture. You'd go check it and make sure you had it where you needed it, and then the logistics of it, because you had to line up trucking, because you just really don't want to store it. Because like I said, the more you handle it, the more you damage it.
Okay, and what kind of weather does popcorn thrive in? Is it just like any ordinary corn? It's kind of similar,
just like any
it likes
other
the warmth and
just pretty much the same as corn or any other grass crop. It's just a little punier than field corn as far as takes forever to come up. You know, it doesn't have the vigor that, like I said, modern field corn, but as long as you know that going into it, you're not disappointed when you drive out and look at it and go, oh, yes. But
well, here's a myth for you, and pretty sure I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways because it's a fun question. If it gets too hot, do you have to worry about your whole field popping off?
Oh, gee.
No, but I'm going to tell you, you're a brave man if you run it through a grain dryer.
Oh, yeah.
Have you
Well,
ever
you're either a
popped
brave
Jiffy
man
Pop?
or you better have butter.
Yeah, 'cause,
Yeah.
again, it will pop without oil. You can pop it without butter. You just don't want it to. You stand a chance of burning it. But yeah, that's always been the urban legend that somebody blew a bin up. Because again, it's 40-1. It expands 40 times its own size to the kernel when it pops. So yeah.
Now, Will, you said earlier that when you first started planting popcorn, it wasn't covered under insurance, but after a few years, it was. What's the reasoning behind that?
Because nobody had ever grown it commercially in my county.
Okay, so that was just locally, just for your county. Okay.
Yeah, just locally.
Okay.
You know, for us, and then us and several other guys got to growing it, and we finally got it added. Which, if you just about in this day and age, you can't do stuff like that anymore.
Right.
You know, and yeah, that was the only thing, and even then, it was of course, crop insurance in the '90s wasn't what it is today either. So it, and we had a couple years that absolutely just about zeroed out from burning up, and yeah, it's a long day.
So,
'Cause
Will, when
only
you're combining,
yes.
Oh, go ahead. Finish your statement, and then I got a question for you about equipment.
Because it would only make 85 to like 110 bushel to the acre versus field corn. You know, it's a lighter crop too, but you're sowing it by the pounds. You're not sowing it by the bushel. So, but
So,
yeah, ask
what
me the
about
question.
Okay, so what about your equipment? Do you have a different header than what you're normally using with your regular field corn?
No, just at the time we used a Case IH corn head, and we made sure the deck plates moved because we would set them all the way in for pop. It was quite a bit smaller stalk and ear. Later on, when we got a corn head with adjustable on-the-go deck plates, it wasn't an issue. They always wanted a rotary-style combine, the IHs, the New Hollands, because they were a lot more gentle on it. And like I said, the more worn out, the better.
Well, yeah, that gave you some flexibility. Very cool.
And we didn't unload in the grain cart, and we didn't unload on the go, and you unloaded at an idle because you just didn't want to crack it.
Yep, that makes great sense.
I got another one for you, Will. This is something that people could probably just grow in their backyard garden. If somebody wanted to grow or try to grow popcorn in their home garden, and it came to be the end of the year and harvest, and you're doing it by hand versus with a combine, how would you go about that? I mean, what's the process look like? You just rip the sides off the corn and then just
shut corn
take it
and
off the
twist
cob,
it.
or
take it off the cob, because we had guys that would do that. You can't plant the corn. By the time they get done with it, it won't grow for what you're buying in the store. You've got to buy seed corn. But you just grab it and shuck it off the deal. Of course, you can throw the cob in the microwave and pop it too, but pop it off the cob.
This sounds dangerous.
So you had mentioned earlier that it's kind of a fragile thing and you don't want to break it, and there was it had to have like the right moisture content, or otherwise it was it just wasn't really worth doing it, or it was a little more difficult to do it. How would you go about determining that if you were growing it in your home garden? How do you tell that it's ready, and is there a special technique so you don't have to worry about damaging it, or is it more of the machine that would damage it versus your hand?
The machine would damage it versus your hand. No, my technique for in the garden would literally be get a cup and pop it. So, the moisture escapes me on what it was. But like I said, the biggest thing we had to keep up on was not damaging it in the combine. And because if you crack it, it won't pop. That's what old maids are. the outer hull on its pop is cracked and it loses its moisture and it won't pop. No. And
So,
no,
Will, as we're
they do
winding
not
down,
pump butter through a center privet. So.
pump butter through a center pivot. That's an awesome idea. Overhead sprinkling with butter on your popcorn. I like that. You'd have to add some salt, though, too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Ariel, I guess. I know a guy with a crop duster that would try it. So.
So, Will, as we have our last few minutes here in our segment, you also have a fondness for Steiger tractors, which originated in this area. And how did that happen? A guy from Missouri who has a great fondness for Steigers. What brought that about?
They're south of us, south of where I live is large, wide open country. And those boys were big before big was a thing. And they all had Steigers, so I equated that with success. If you had a Steiger, you were cool. So when time and I buy them and run them now, the older square nose ones, because they're affordable and you can't kill them. They're old man proof, and there's something to be said for that. And we just love them, and they're just like growing popcorn. If there's a fleet of Steigers on the road, somebody or in the field, somebody's stopping and taking a picture every time. They don't have to go with the guy and the deer. So, and I think 1, 2, 3. I've got 4.5 right now, and there's almost always 3 on the phone. 4.5. I got one for parts, man.
Hey, there you go.
Always.
Yep, yeah, those Steigers are super cool tractors, and I don't farm. I virtually farm, and those are the tractors I run in my game are Steigers because they pull and they're cheap.
Yes, that's exactly why we run them in real life. And between Case IH today, who owns them, and a wonderful company over in Minnesota called Big Tractor Parts, they'll run forever. And all I know is every time one comes up for sale, I get 30 texts that I need to buy it. I'm like, other people can own them too, but it's they're again, it's fun. And they make me money. So that's why.
I look forward to you coming up here because some of the very first Steigers off the line are in a museum here in West Fargo, like the Panther, the Cougar, etc. So I think it's just fitting that you have a little road trip up to North Dakota so we can show you Steigers.
I'll be there. I'll come. My little brother actually hauled them out of Fargo for years for Case IH. No.
Yet another reason to like him. I suppose he's no longer doing it. He wasn't one of the guys who helped haul those Case Steiger quad tracks down to the port so they could be shipped down to Antarctica, huh?
No, he hauled them. He bring them back into here into the Midwest, but he always he said he liked it till it snowed.
Which is 3/4 of the year up here.
Thing.
Yes. I know that I quit complaining about the weather whenever I call the boys at Big Tractor because he's like, "Oh, it's 27 below zero, don't you know?" I'm like, "Well, it's 19. We'd take that." I'm like, "Okay." Of course, they think that I live in Florida up there. They think that I'm in the South, and I'm not. I'm in the I'm in the middle of the U.S. It's literally the middle. But
and you are close to the Mississippi River, if I'm not mistaken.
I could just about drop a rock in it if I hurled it where I'm at right now.
So with all of the flooding in the past, I mean, I know the Mississippi is down tremendously right now. How much have you noticed that? Because you've probably had land that was flooded out at one point by the Mississippi.
Oh yeah, you can tell. You really have to be doing something to flood the bottoms around here because of the levee districts. Okay, it's just, I mean, you've got to have 21 foot of river. It's about 10 right now up here, but we're above the lock and dam system where they maintain the depth for the barges. But it is low, and the biggest way you can tell is everybody's getting all their ditches and all the swales and all the low spots they haven't farmed in 10 years' work. So because we're not pushing any seep water, and that's the truth. But it's very low, and you can tell. However, what's going to happen what's going to happen is we're going to be burning up in June, throwing sandbags because it's all the snow up north. Promise you that. I predict that. So.
Well, we hope that the water levels go up down there. And I was going to ask, you had mentioned with the barge traffic, have you noticed much of that being affected due to the water levels along the Mississippi?
It has. It has. Up in here, it's not too bad. But as you get below us, they're having the loads. They can't get them. They can't. If they draft too deep, they're hanging them up. And the problem they're having with the lock and dams here is they've doubled their wait time to get the water to build the pool up. They close the dam, fill the pool up, so it's backing it up. And yes, it's affected because most of our grain goes to the river. 99% of it is going for export, and it's affected the basis on the markets here considerably.
Okay,
but right now, Upper River's closed. They close at this time of year till about March, for the freeze up or to do maintenance and stuff like that. So, I mean, that part we're kind of used to, but it's been weird. Ethanol plants and feed mills and stuff like that. This is the first time ever they were the premium to go to sell grain because the river was so inverted on the basis.
Right. I was just going to ask, you had mentioned with the ports being slowed down, or at least, the barges up and down the river, and you had mentioned that it's like 90 or maybe it was 99% goes into the rivers. If that's down and the barge traffic is less and less and they're closing down parts of it, then you have to rely on trucks or rail. And have you seen things slowing down that way just because everything has to switch to something where they're either threatening to strike or there's already a trucker shortage?
Yeah, they've rattled it up, and you'll get a text from, "Hey, we're full. We're going to be full for a couple of days." In my part of the world, there is not a lot of rail traffic on grain because, again, the river. Trucks, yeah, because they haul from the inland elevators to the river. But it's so funny to me because I have been blessed with a grain market that, unless you farm on the Mississippi River, you don't have. And I mean that. And when I say the Mississippi River, I mean it in all capital letters, by the way. So every other river is a creek compared to that girl. So,
Dean, did you have a last question for Will there?
No, I'm good. Actually, we have to go to break, buddy.
Yep.
Our producer is yelling at us.
Now yell back at him, Jacob. Will, any social media platforms anywhere people can get in contact with you if they want to, or
Twitter's my favorite. The Marion County Farmer, and there is a long and distasteful inside story to that. So we'll go with Marion County Farmer. So,
well, thank you very much, Will.
I'm glad to do it, guys. It made for good lunch today. So,
yeah, it was a great time. It made our day, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. And hopefully, the river goes up a little bit for you, but not too far.
Yeah, I do not feel like eating butter sandwiches and sand all summer, and that's about what's going to be.
Well, at least you got popcorn for the butter. But we're gonna get updated with the American Ag Network. Then Weather and Ag in Focus will be right back.
Hey everyone, John Adams here. I hope you'll join me on WDAY Radio for my new talk show, Talk of the Town with John Adams. Every Wednesday from 11 to noon, we'll talk about issues that affect us all in the Fargo-Moorhead community. We'll talk taxes, the diversion, places to go and things to do, and of course, Bison and Viking football. We'll talk about issues that affect everyone in this great community that we call home. That's Talk of the Town with John Adams, Wednesdays at 11 on WDAY Radio.
Stay tuned for another Spud Sports doubleheader. This is Larry Knutson, and tonight you can tune in to girls hockey at 6 o'clock, then girls basketball at 7:30. Girls hockey is gearing up for a section tournament run, while Spud girls basketball renews their rivalry with Alexandria. Enjoy the evening of a Spud Sports doubleheader on 970 WDAY 93.1 FM.
Big news from Newsmax. AT&T's DirecTV just removed Newsmax. They won't get Newsmax anymore. Boy, does that make me angry. I love Newsmax. It's the 4th highest rated cable news channel in America. And now DirecTV and UVerse subscribers will not see it. It has been censored for you. President Trump calls AT&T DirecTV's censorship of Newsmax disgusting. He also says AT&T DirecTV dropped OAN, the second conservative channel in a year. Meanwhile, DirecTV keeps 22 liberal news channels. Remember, you're paying for all those liberal channels. President Trump says you should cancel DirecTV, Uverse, and even your AT&T services like cell phones. Let's stand up for free speech. So do two things. Call DirecTV toll-free at 877-7-NEWSMAX. 877, then 7 Newsmax, and let them know you demand Newsmax and oppose censorship. And everyone listening can go online now and sign Newsmax petition at iwantnewsmax.com. iwantnewsmax.com.
Wheat was a winner in the grains today. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Risvet with this closing market. Grain started the day off lower. However, they all did manage to hit positive territory around mid-morning. Wheat continued to hold its rally while corn pulled back a bit, as well as soybeans. Livestock was mixed with hogs down lower all day. Feeders did see some triple-digit gains through most of the day, while the fat saw some mixed action. Stocks erased their morning losses to trade higher, with some optimism lingering from this morning's data showing labor costs increased by less than expected, and the market still patiently awaiting news from the Fed. Elsewhere, today's economic data has been mostly negative, with the Conference Board's January Consumer Confidence Index falling by more than expected to 107.1 versus expectations of a rise to 109. The VIX cooled to trade near 19.2, while the dollar reversed course to trade below 102. Crude oil did see a rise in its futures. However, it did pull back from some of its session highs. Housing prices also fell by less than expected in November, with the morning's Federal Housing Finance Agency price index dropping only 0.1% from the month prior, with expectations of a 0.4% drop. This is now the fourth consecutive month that the index has stagnated after slowly falling from the all-time highs made in June of last year. The U.S. housing sector has been among the hardest hit in the last year, with inflation cutting into budgets and rising interest rates keeping many prospective buyers on the sidelines. Let's get a look at the closing commodity numbers. March corn down 4 at 6.79 3/4. March beans up 2 3/4 at 15.38. Wheat Chicago March up 8 3/4 at 7.61 1/4. Kansas City March up 5 at 8.78 3/4. And the March Minneapolis wheat, that was up 1/4 at 9.21 3/4. Live cattle February up a dime at 158.85. Feeders March up 2.22 at 186.15. And the February lean hogs, they're down 27 at 74.87. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Ristvet.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and want to hit on a couple of ag topics. Now, Bridgette, we're talking about farming under solar panels, and I know farmers rent out their windmills. Rent out their land to a lot of these windmills.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations. It's like a graveyard for birds. And they say the noise causes cancer. You tell me that one, okay?
Now, we don't have to worry about anything like that with the solar panels and farming near those, do we?
So that's not necessarily what's being discussed, guys. This is a study out of Michigan where work is being done, and there's a difference between the ultraviolet lights on solar panels. There's a red wavelength versus a blue. And the red, when it goes through the solar panel, it can actually give indirect light and growth to plants growing underneath it. The blue is better for solar energy. So if you're doing that, you're able to get those plants to grow underneath there. You're using land space, which otherwise might be taken up by the solar panels. Your crop has a chance for less damage to it because you don't get sun scald. You also don't get it to, if you have like tomatoes, they wouldn't rot as fast if they started to have a disease problem, etc. So it's actually a pretty positive situation for the most part when it comes to farming under these solar panels. Now, a lot of them I've seen are rather low to the ground. I don't know how they're going to get a tiny tractor under there. Right. So I think harvest is their next discussion of what are they going to do and how are they going to get that done. Yes.
And are there more and more solar panels being installed? Is there more windmills? Is there more solar panels on the farmland nowadays?
Oh, I think that, the closer you are to an urban area, the more you're going to see solar panels. Wind towers like we have here in North Dakota, that power is generally generated and moved out of state quite a distance, actually. So we as a state are probably seeing more wind turbines than we would see solar panels. And I do see solar panels, but a question I would have is, do they also have like a defrost button on them? Because how do we get the snow and ice off when we get those winter storms, you guys?
That's a good point.
That is a very good point. Huh.
So if you guys can defrost them for me.
You had mentioned, maybe someone can call in if they have an answer for that. How do the solar panels handle snow and ice up here if you got them on your house or something? 701-293-9000. We got a few minutes. We'll make room for you if you call in soon enough. But you had mentioned that some of the light goes through the solar panel.
It's the red wavelength that goes through it. It's a bit like a filter. And this test was done using tomatoes underneath. And they said the approach works in practice, in study, but to be able to do it in a large cropping system, they're not necessarily sure of what that will look like quite yet. And again, how are we going to harvest it? But we need some out-of-the-box thinking, and usually plants under those solar panels need about 30% less moisture as well. So that's also helpful if you're in a droughty area.
So I'm trying to envision this, and this whole theoretical farming underneath solar panels, and it would basically throw them 10, 15, 20 feet off the ground and just have, a solar panel the size of a field?
I don't think it's going to be just one panel if you think about it as
multiple, but yes.
Solar, multiple panels but you'd still have space underneath them. Now, most of the ones that I've seen, they're pretty low to the ground. So are they being built at a taller height so that you could get underneath them more accurately? That's possible. There wasn't a picture that showed exactly what the dimensions are on those panels, how they're making them work, but they are wanting to take that power generated from them to be able to use.
That's pretty interesting.
Well, guys,
who would have thought? Glad to help, guys.
Yeah, we are almost out of time, and I know Bridgette wants to go and have a little fun out there and catch some fish. Good luck, Bridgette, and we want to thank everybody for joining us on Weather and Ag in Focus. The Jay Thomas Show is coming up next. We'll see you all tomorrow.
.970 WDAY AM and 93.1 FM, Fargo-Moorhead.
Good afternoon, I'm Tom Tucker, WDAY News First. Topping news at this hour, the Fargo Public School Board is holding a special meeting today to finalize a land purchase. The district is buying a 75-acre parcel at the southwest corner of 64th Avenue South and 45th Street South. The estimated cost is $8.1 million. A district spokesperson says the land will be used to build a new high school and possibly an elementary school.